And Chelsea in the headlines this morning. Graeme, you were across this when you and I were talking just before we met with Mr. Jordan coming into the studio. Raheem Sterling said to be seeking clarity on his position at Chelsea after being left out of Enzo Maresca's first team squad for the match against Manchester City. There was a statement that went out from Raheem's camp minutes after the lineup was revealed before this game, and it went out reportedly from his own representatives. Basically, for those who don't know, Raheem Sterling, of course, regarded himself as a big part of Chelsea's squad going into this season, and would have thought, Graeme, that he would be in the squad, maybe not the team, but certainly the squad, to face Manchester City on day one. So I'll bring you up to date in a second with where Raheem's camp is coming from. But what was your take on it all, Graeme? Because it seems, right, he's not in it. They want clarity. Maresca's doing his own thing. And Raheem might be one of a few who may or may not feature in the coming weeks.
Well, I think he'd be mystified. Am I correct in saying he took part in 6 of the pre-season games?
Yes. Yeah.
He's 29 years old, so he would get the vibe that he was being passed by or not. Trust me, he would know whether it was, not being part of certain parts of the training or just the vibe, the words the manager and coaches were using towards him. So he would have known. He's not a boy. He's 29, and it would appear, given the route that Chelsea decision makers are going down, which is lots of young players. Raheem at 29, on an enormous salary, I would imagine, is someone that will be surplus to requirements going forward. That would be my interpretation. Harsh, but professional sport is harsh. I think they're wanting him out the door.
Okay, well, Simon, I'll bring you up to date in a second with what the Raheem Sterling representative's version of events is at this precise moment in time. He wasn't in the squad, he didn't feature, had nothing to do with it, and Manchester City won, for the record, by 2-0. Post-match, the new coach, Enzo Maresca, was asked if Sterling had a future at the football club.
In this moment, it's Chelsea player. So, like all the Chelsea player that they are in this moment here, they have future. But as I said, it's just taking a decision, no more than that.
What did you make of the fact that there was a statement attributed to his camp, though, just before kick-off?
I didn't see. They said to me, to be honest, when the game was finished, but I didn't see. So I don't know the reason why, but I was focused on the game, so I didn't pay attention.
Simon, that was Maresca. I'll give you the situation as I understand it at this very moment, this Monday morning. So the Daily Mail approached the players' representatives last week, suggesting that they had information that Sterling wouldn't be involved in Chelsea's squad going forward. So when the squad was announced for the Manchester City game, no Sterling. So the Mail ran quotes they previously had from Sterling's representatives on this matter. In hindsight, his representatives regard that timing as unfortunate. Raheem and his camp this morning wish to have direct dialogue with Chelsea's owners and sporting directors. I understand that the player will not be submitting a transfer request. They feel he has a good relationship with the new coach, and that relationship is one of mutual respect. But until there is further dialogue, Raheem is doubtful if he has a role to play at Chelsea going forward. That's where we're at.
Yeah, I'm not sure why this needs to be played out in the public gallery by his agents. He can have dialogue with the owners of the football club or the people that he works for. He just doesn't need to do it through the media. So I'm not entirely sure why they would do that. I am, because they want to insulate themselves from any response. They certainly don't want to put a transfer request in because it'll probably cost them some money. There'll probably be some implications behind a player requesting a transfer. So let's not have any magnanimity around that.
But it was a Mail in the middle of last week who got information that Raheem wasn't going to be involved in the game against City.
I don't know who briefed the Mail in. It may have been Sterling's agents. I don't know.
You did say something different. You said against City. Prior to that, you said going forward, he's not going to be involved.
Yeah.
So what is it? Is it going forward or is it just a one-off game?
The Daily Mail approached the players' representative last week suggesting they had information that Sterling wouldn't be involved in Chelsea's squad going forward.
See, that's... it doesn't surprise me because of the route they're choosing to go down. They want a dressing room filled with young players.
It also doesn't surprise me because he hasn't set the world on fire at Chelsea, has he? He's probably produced his worst performances over the last decade since he's been at Chelsea. So I'm not entirely sure that you're going to get a poll of Chelsea fans saying, "Oh no, this is terrible. We must have Raheem Sterling back in the starting lineup."
Well, his representatives in their statement pre-match at the weekend said he had had a positive pre-season under the new coach, who he's developed a good working relationship with.
Who decides it's been a positive? Because he started in the 6 games and come on in the 6 games. I mean, this is. I do a column, as you know, in the Mail on a Saturday.
He played a big part in all 6 games.
And I said in the column on Saturday, the manager. It's never been more difficult to be a manager than it is today. And when you have a squad that size, how can you possibly keep them all happy and content? It's mission impossible for the manager. It's so difficult for this young man. And when they've got, as I said to you already, as a player, you would get a sniff that some things, they're not fancying me anymore. They're not including me in this and that or whatever. The way the manager speaks to them, the way the coaches speak to them. So he's got a whiff of it, and it's a clear case for me anyway. They want him out the door, and the remarks from his agent, it's just saying, look, you're going to have to pay me to go. And again, I referenced that in my article on Saturday. To get these boys out the door now, you're going to have to take a real smack in the chops when it comes to the money you receive, and you're also going to have to pay them to go out the door. And that is going to be the situation with Raheem Sterling if they want him out.
Well, Graeme, you said in your column, Chelsea's business model is doomed to failure. Do you see that, Simon?
Depends what he thinks their business model is.
Well, Graeme says they've signed 11 players with an average age of 21 this summer for around 200 million, all on long deals. The majority of them will not be good enough to take Chelsea where they want to be, and that's a challenge for the 2 big trophies.
In the immediate term, I suspect that's probably right.
And Graeme went on to say they'll be faced with the dilemma of how to get rid of them.
Well, yeah. I mean, they'll be faced with an economic decision, which doesn't seem to faze them in the slightest.
So here's Sterling wondering why he's not involved. He thought he had a good relationship with Maresca. Maresca clearly feels he has a decent enough relationship with
Sterling's version of events, and it will play into the narrative. I would imagine that Maresca is entirely complicit in whether Sterling is playing or not playing, unless we believe,
complicit.
Yeah, I think he'll probably. I think
decides.
I think he'll decide. But the narrative that will be peddled out is that he doesn't decide. He's going to be a yes man. That's why they employed him. And it's going to be decisions made on top, irrespective of whether the player's worth something or not to the football team on a Saturday afternoon. That's how to be played out. I would suggest that Maresca is going, not me, Gov, but he knows full well and probably had the conversation with those above him, understanding that, is Sterling really a necessity for us going forward? And by the way, if they have to pay him up, they've got a 3-year contract. If they have to pay him up, the only people that complain about Chelsea's economic hardship are everybody else. I don't see Todd Bowley going, I've had a dreadful time for 2 years spraying money around like it's going out of fashion. So I don't think it'll bother them. I think if they want to get rid of Sterling, they'll get rid of Sterling. And what they'll try and do is limit the cost implications of what it costs them to do so.
But Maresca was on record during pre-season saying Sterling is an important player to us.
And that's fine. And he's also, from what I understand, said yesterday...
How's it fine? It's a mixed message.
Well, because...
all the managers today have to tell tales. They have to tell the players what they want to hear. And then you just mentioned it. It is a get out of jail card today for the manager. In one respect, it's a bit easier. They can turn around and say, well, it's not my decision. A manager was all powerful when I was a manager. They made the decisions. Now they can just say, well, director of football, owner, chief exec, not my call.
Exactly. I look at it and go, as a football story, because it's Raheem Sterling, but his contribution to Chelsea has been...
He'll be disappointed with his time, with his performances.
Bang average. So as a footballing decision, does Raheem Sterling merit getting in that side? I'm not sure he does.
But Simon, when you break it down, all pre-season, he plays all pre-season.
Pre-season means nothing. Does it mean anything, Graeme?
He's then totally excluded on Sunday, with Maresca giving him a heads up that he should start reviewing his options. There's no dialogue with the club. And this morning he's fronting a new sponsor. His picture, his image, is on a picture with 2 other people at Chelsea.
Well, someone's made their own call there. Someone's made their own call. But they find themselves in a difficult position. Because where is the market for Raheem Sterling? Saudi Arabia. End of.
Possibly. And
only
that may
Saudi
well be
Arabia.
the route that he goes.
And the kind of money he would want, he's not going to get that again in England. The kind of transfer fee Chelsea would want, I don't think there's going to be anyone in England.
But when you think about it, if the worst case scenario for Chelsea is that they have to let him go on a free and pay up some of his wages, I mean, let's have it right. If he's on 200 grand a week and they have to pick up 300 grand a week, if they have to pick up 100 grand a week of it, I mean, with the great scheme of things of what Chelsea spend, they really won't care about paying him 15 million quid.
But Simon, multiply that 20 times.
But that's irrelevant.
Multiply that 20 times. Because that's what you're looking at. You're looking at
possibly.
They've got to score 50-odd players. Again, 15 they'll have to leave.
Again, why are we?
You're talking Chalobah, Sterling, Chilwell.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Chalobah's not exactly a world beater, is he? I mean, we're talking about players that are narratives being underscored. Why are we so worried about Chelsea's finances? Because they're not.
I'm not bothered about Chelsea's finances one bit.
So the boy wants
here's
to play.
Here's the situation.
So what?
You've got one player, a seriously prominent England international.
No, he's not.
Who's at the club?
Who's
at the club at the moment? Who thought he was going to be a big part of their plans this season? Had it in his mind that the coach suggested he'd be a big part of the plans this season, and on day one is excluded.
So what?
Gone.
So what?
So his representatives are quite right to say, Chelsea Football Club. It'd be quite good if you enlighten us here.
And I'm sure they will. And the fact that they've utilised the media to do it is a tactic that they wish to deploy for their own ends. Because they're going to have a conversation at sometime sooner rather than later. Whatever the agenda is going to manifest itself. So they're going to have their conversation. They just wanted to have it through the media.
Something you said there. Who's concerned? Chelsea are not complaining about the money they're spending, which will be Chelsea not going to complain about the money they're going to blow. Yeah. But surely you have to. That money comes in a large part from the supporters.
Yeah,
they must question their. Wait a minute, they're going to pay them all this money. They're going to get next to nothing in a transfer fee, pay them all this money to go, and multiply that 10 times, 12 times, 15 times. Surely it has to be a consideration about what the supporters feel in this.
Well, what do you think the supporters will feel about Raheem Sterling? Because I bet if you put
no,
a straw poll out this afternoon,
I'm talking about the big. I'm talking about multiply by 10 other players.
You think for Sterling, read another 9 going to be in a similar situation soon?
You're forecasting doom.
No, I'm not.
You're forecasting
they can well afford it.
Yeah, they can.
But some of that money that's being spent is their supporters' money.
Well, okay.
And some of that money
in a great scheme of things, it's been long
money.
since established, and I'm not decrying the value of the supporters' opinion. Absolutely, that the smallest part of the revenue that goes into a football club is what goes in on a match day. So the broadcasters and the TV revenues.
So
and
they don't buy the
deals,
replica strips and.
No, they do, but that will be about. I just said the smallest part. So if your turnover is 300 or 400 million quid, I would suggest to you that probably 50, 60, 70 million quid of that is probably a direct relationship with supporters paying tickets and buying something they get in exchange for. They're not getting. They're not giving it to you as a charity. So 20% of Chelsea's turnover will come from the rest is broadcasters and commercial deals. So they absolutely have a right to have a say, but the major lion's share of plugging the enormous gaps that Chelsea seem to be quite comfortable in spending is coming from the guys that own the club.
You still have to consider your supporters.
So what's inconsiderate about making decisions that ultimately they change out of? You're suggesting that every single deal that they do, or a significant proportion of it, is going to go badly.
Well, here's one for you. As we head to the break, I'm very keen. Graham's bringing up the supporters aspect to this. Very keen to hear from Chelsea fans on this morning. What's your take on this? Because Graham's suggestion is, correct me if I'm wrong, Graham, for Sterling, this could happen to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or more. Right. 03717 223344. Simon, it's fair to say Sterling, and he's not going to do this, could put his feet up and for the next few years take his money. He's owed approximately 70 million for the remaining 3 years. All he's asking for, and his representatives are asking for, is a conversation about it.
Well, I'm sure.
Do you grant them that?
Well, yeah. When your employer determines it, here's how it works in the real world. You're an employee. You work for somebody else. That means that when they decide they wish to talk to you.
Did you say 70?
70.
Is he trying to defend indefensible here?
No, I'm not. I'm just looking at it.
70.
I'm looking at it, which is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous contract, but he's not the only one that's on a ridiculous contract. Now he can put his feet up for 3 years if he wants and watch his career be flushed down the toilet.
He won't.
Or he can. Well,
that's
who knows
exactly what he's not going to do.
Or we don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah. That's what they're threatening.
Yeah,
but it's also a threat to him as well, because if he sits in the reserves, for 3 years and doesn't play, wonderful. He gets his 70 million quid. Fantastic. He was going to get it anyway.
No, all they're looking for, there's nobody going to be putting their feet up as far as I gather. All they're looking for is dialogue. And as I said earlier, that's my reading of it. Raheem and his camp wish to have direct dialogue with Chelsea's owners and sporting directors. But Graham's point is a good one on this, Simon. For Sterling, read another 7, 8, 9 players. Could the same happen? Chelsea fans, we want to hear from you. Graham mentioned you, so let's give it a whirl. 03717 223344 81089. Where are you in this with Raheem and Chelsea?
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.